read some passages from last week, Mary Magdalene revealed by Megan Watterson. And there's another place earlier in the book where she talks about the gender of God, and is it useful to call God the Father, or is it helpful now to call God the Mother, as we're in this time of the rise of the divine feminine, the return of the honoring of the sacred feminine. And she has this little sentence here that says, I believe it would do as much harm to call God Mother as it would, just lost the page, to call God Father. Yeah, I'm sorry, I did something on my iPad and lost the page. Okay, come back to, here it is. I believe it would do as much harm to call God Mother as it has to call God Father for countless centuries. It perpetuates this misunderstanding that any one of us could be greater or less than the other. And this is really interesting to me. And I have really been working with the concept of the divine feminine, the great mother, for many, many years. And it's been very, very valuable and important to me, having grown up in the Christian church, in a Protestant family, but nonetheless in that Protestant Christian tradition of God the Father and Jesus as the Son, and all the important, art is showing God as this man, especially, the long white hair and the old white guy, man, God. And I first really reconnected with the divine feminine, the goddess, the great mother, in reading books like The Mists of Avalon, which is a fabulous magical book by Marion Zimmer Bradley, and Riane Eisler's The Chalice and the Blade, in which she goes through a whole re-examination of the archaeological history to show that there were partnership cultures, and that we haven't always had male-dominated patriarchal cultures, but there were cultures in which both women and men held power, and the goods were usually passed down the mother's line. They were matrilineal. The mother's line was more important. And these cultures all were goddess worshiping, and they worshipped Earth as our mother, and the goddess as the source of the sacred and all the divine. And that was really healing and wonderful to me. And we have been watching this reemergence of the divine feminine, of the goddess of awareness, of the sacred feminine, and the importance of recreating this balance. But what this sentence brings up in Megan Watterson's book is, are we just going to flip and create a kind of dominator culture from the opposite gendered end, when in truth, all of us as humans, as I was talking about last week, are both human and divine, and our soul is non-gendered. So if you believe in multiple lifetimes, if we have that, we have all been both genders and perhaps other beings on the planet in previous lives. And so how important is gender in thinking about the divine? And I remember learning many years ago that the Hebrew word for God is non-gendered. So in the Old Testament, when the Old Testament is talking about God, it's not God the Father, it's a non-gendered God, which is greater than just imagining God as a man. And the piece about imagining God as a woman, or the divine as feminine, which to me makes more sense, because women are the ones who birth things. We are the ones who bring babies into the world. Yes, the man is involved in contributing seed, but we are the ones who actually grow that child within the womb and birth the child into the world. And so having the creation be more feminine than masculine just kind of makes sense to me. But is it a useful way to look at it? Do we want to really exclude the masculine? A lot of the people that I work with and the mentors that I have are working with the idea of the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine, or the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And if you work with the Hindu tradition, we all have both, and also some of our psychological traditions like Carl Jung, we have both those aspects within ourselves at all times. And we have done quite a lot of harm by pigeonholing genders into certain behavior systems. Women are nice and kind and gentle, and men are strong and powerful, and um, men are logical, women are emotional. It's just not that simple, and it's not helpful for us to pigeonhole either ourselves or anyone else in that way. And so this is just something I'm thinking about. Is it useful to really talk about the Great Mother? I like to imagine the center of creation in the universe as the cosmic womb. And this comes from teachings of Sri Kaleshwar, who brought holy womb chakra teachings from ancient India. So there's just a lot in this, a lot to unpack. To become, as I was talking about last week, that integrated human means integrating our divine self with our human self. And I always tend to do this: divine is up and human is down, but it's not that simple either. There's a lot of sacredness and divinity under earth too. But it's that being able to balance those aspects, but it's also balancing feminine and masculine. So human and divine, feminine and masculine. And I'm reminded too of Mary Baker Eddy's phrase. She was the founder of the Christian Science religion. She always used the phrase Father, Mother, God. She always put both genders in. So that's another potential interesting way to look at it. But of course, the greater truth is that the divine is so much larger than just feminine or just masculine. It's the great mystery. It's the great spirit. So some traditions have that language, great spirit, and that's not gendered either. So perhaps that's the way for us to go, while we still need to really reclaim the sacredness of the feminine and the masculine as partners. And this is what I love about Riane Eisler's work, is that partnership aspect. So that it isn't about women taking over and suppressing men, as women have been suppressed by men for thousands of years now. That's not what it's about at all. It's about creating that partnership where there is power with instead of power over. And we empower each other instead of disempower anybody. And nobody has to be inferior so that someone can feel superior. There doesn't have to be any sect, any sex, any race, any aspect of beings on the planet that is the dominator, that has to dominate over everything else. We're all in this together. So it's about partnership. Love to hear your thoughts. See you next time.